And I welcome you today to CSC Talk Radio. It is my honor, my privilege, and my pleasure to be here with you today. Do you remember the phrase, the inmates are running the asylum? Well, that actually means the people least capable of running a group or organization are now in charge. It's especially used when the result is total chaos and calamity. Does that sound familiar to you? We talked previously, in the days and the weeks past, about how the DIM, D-I-M, not the brightest bulb in the box, blatantly state, we're not going to make America great. And again, today, the news would prove this to be a statement of truth and promise. However, it isn't just the Dems who need a little lightning, a little light, a little brighter light, or a little brightening in the box. The globalist Republicans, the greedy politicians, they're the special ones to follow the laws. They're too special to follow the laws. Those who are made for the peasants we represent. People. News continues to show the arrogance and the lack of integrity amongst the whole lot of them. In Deuteronomy, it says, his people have acted corruptly toward him, and their spot is not that of his children, but of a perverse and crooked generation. We went from the greatest generation to the crookedest generation, I do believe. In Ezekiel, it says, when they came to the nations where they went, they profaned my holy name, because it was said of them, they were the people of the Lord, yet they have come out of his land. They profaned him. It says also in Romans, you who boast in the law, through your breaking the law, do you dishonor God? Well, of course. And in 1 Timothy 3:2, it says, an overseer, then, must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, temperate, prudent, respectable, hospitable, able to teach. I don't know about you, but I don't see that in our leaders today. Do you? Well, the following verse that I'm going to share is very true. We still have the obligation, even though we know we're all sinners, we still have the obligation to live above reproach as best we can. Leaders have a tremendous obligation to do that. In Romans 3:23 through 26, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus, whom God set forth as a propitiation by his blood through faith to demonstrate his righteousness, because in his forbearance God had passed over the sins that were previously committed, to demonstrate and at the present time his righteousness, that he might be just and the justifier of the one who has faith in Jesus. Yeah, we're not having Sunday school. I'm just trying to point out a few things. What we are witnessing in our nation today is a class of people, the elected, who believe themselves to be above the law, the elite, worthy of all the peasants can provide, answering to no one, not even God, as they carry on their lives and their jobs as elected officials without regard to what is right, and there seems to be no integrity and no guilt for the lack of it. As I was watching the news last night, the same consultants who are on each show, day in and day out, now they're paid nicely for their opinions. But when it comes to the average American, those interviews are randomly done, man-on-the-street segments. If you really want to know what the average American thinks about the political mess today, hire a few of them to be consultants. The topics last night were the confession of Cohen, the guilty finding of Manafort, the college kids destroying yet another monument, illegal aliens murder, an illegal alien murders a young woman, the President Trump holding a rally in West Virginia, and yes, there was a consultant asked how he did and what do you think the people thought. Seriously, ask one of us and not one of those random man on the streets. Why not go to the men at work, the men and women at work? I think you get my point. I'm not totally against these consultants. They do not answer for me, however. As we go through today's news, I want you to think about two phrases today. The inmates are running the asylum, and they're not going to make America great. I believe that President Trump and the Republicans and anyone else who is complaining about what Governor Cuomo said is concentrating on the wrong phrase. Their legislation, their ideas, their socialistic rules, they're not going to make America great, and that is a statement of truth. Well, we're back to school, you know. School's back in session, and it doesn't take long for it to make the news. A Lottie, California mother is livid. Her teenage daughter was lectured on why guns are bad and kicked out of class for wearing an NRA shirt. Now, this happened in a history class, which, you'd think the history teacher would know better, but the history teacher did not know better, and he went on to give her a lecture on how guns kill people and guns are bad, and she shouldn't be supporting the NRA. Now, this is a family of farmers and hunters. And this article is coming from Ashley Kimber, and that's part of Chicks on the Right. And I don't necessarily agree with everything she says here, but she says, I absolutely oppose that teacher lecturing the students on guns being bad. They're not. And that teacher was absolutely no place reprimanding a student over their own political opinions. As for wearing the specific NRA t-shirt to school, I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that. Don't get me wrong, I'm an NRA member, she says, and I fully support them. I also think it's wrong to kick her out of class. I just think it's probably best to keep political statements out of the classroom in general. Again, that's just me, she says. It's totally a personal thing. What happened was wrong, and she put wrong in all caps. Now let me go back to when my kids were in high school. And that was when some of this was just starting. And they have 1 week when it's homecoming. And each day they're supposed to do something different. Even one's supposed to, dress up like cheerleader day or dress up this way or that way. Now, these are kids where drinking is illegal. And one day was wear a Bud Light dog t-shirt. I'm trying to think. Mackenzie, was that the dog's name? Mackenzie Spot or Spot Mackenzie or whatever. Well, of course, we didn't have any of those shirts in our house, and they did not wear them. But here it is. NRA is legal. Second Amendment is legal, and the teacher makes them take it off or turn it wrong side out, sends them to the principal's office, gives them a lecture. They're 15 years old, by the way, on why guns are bad and kill people. Yet when my kids were in school, the Bud Light t-shirt was part of the week for homecoming. Something's wrong with that picture, don't you think, as to what they're teaching the children? Don't you believe that maybe we've got a little bit backwards? There's some more school stories I want to bring to you. That's just the beginning, and then we will cover some other news. Your calls are welcome at 877-895-5410. That's 877-895-5410. I have a story about them tearing down a monument, and then I kind of have the reason that they might be upset. 877-895-5410, and we will be right back.